Nature's Alchemy. I'm sorry, I'm just out of sorts. I've been ill the last week, so I really appreciate your patience. But anyway, my name is Karen Squillante, and this is Nature's Alchemy. And I invite you to come into Nature's Alchemy, where we explore natural healing with crystals, plants, and herbalism, essential oils, and the many ways that Mother Earth provides for our healing and well being. So today I have a really exciting class for you. We're gonna talk all about herbs, and I'm not going to give you too many details on specific herbs, but I am going to teach you how to make a tincture, a tea, and some honey pills. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So there is way too much information on specific herbs, and you should be familiar with with the person to whom you're ministering the herbs and what they need specifically. So there are a lot of really good books on herbs, and some come to mind, which I have here. This one is Rosemary Gladstar's book. This is an excellent book. It's called Medicinal Herbs: A Beginner's Guide, and this teaches you how to make all the medicines, and then or the mixtures, and then it also has a lot of information on specific herbs. Another book that I really like to use is called Making Plant Medicine by Rico Check. You can get both these books on Amazon. This one in particular tells you exactly how to formulate tinctures. It also gives you dosages and that kind of stuff. So this is a really good book. And in the back, it has, I don't know, about 40 or 50 different herbs that are common, that are easy to find. Okay, so excuse me. So let's get down to making herbs into medicine. So the first thing that people use to make, they learn to make tea. And let me see here. Okay. So teas are really easy to make. Um, because all you really need to do is mix up your herbs, and then you want to just make them into, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to see this so I can look at your comments. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So that's better. And I apologize. This is very new to me. So I appreciate your patience. But anyway, let's get going on making tea. Now, many herbs can be infused in boiling water and then you drink them, or some are really good in cold water infusions. But most of them, you need to have hot water in order to take the herbs, oh, in order to take the herbs and get all the constituents out of there. So you absolutely want to boil your water first and then infuse your herbs. Now, I made an herbal tea, and this one is made of 1 part each rose petals, lavender buds, chamomile flowers, and California poppy, and catnip. And so I took 2 tablespoons of each one, and then I put them in a jar and I shook them up a little bit. And then I made a mixture. So all you have to do is when you're ready to make a tea, all right, you just take a tablespoon. Okay, you mix up your herbs really well. And then you take a tablespoon of your mixture, and then you can either put it in the bottom of the cup, or you can use tea bags. You can buy drawstring tea bags. These happen to be hemp tea bags, and these are organic, and they have a little pull string, and these hold up to 1 tablespoon. You don't want to put too much more in there because the herbs really they swell a lot. So you can put them in here, and then once you pull the string, then the herbs stay in here. And these are really great because you don't taste the bag, you only taste the herbs. Okay, so that's one alternative. Another alternative is you can make your own tea bags with some cheesecloth. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of cheesecloth. I would suggest that you get cheesecloth that is very fine weave. And this cheesecloth here, I got this on Amazon. It's a very fine weave, as you can see. Okay. And this will keep, if you use powdered herbs, these are not powdered. These are all loose herb teas. But if you use powder, you really need to have this kind because otherwise you'll get all that sediment at the bottom of your cup. So you definitely want to use that instead. Just make sure you don't get the open weave one. Usually you get that at Wally World or somewhere like that, and that's generic cheesecloth, but that doesn't really work very good. So what you do is you measure your tea, and then you put it in a cup, nice big cup. You can, and then you boil the water, 8 to 12 ounces. It doesn't really matter if you like it a little stronger, use 8 ounces. If you like a little weaker, use 12. But you want to use water that just boiled. You don't want to use just hot water because it's not hot enough to take all the constituents out of your teas or your herbs. So you want to make sure that your water is very, very hot. Okay. And once you do that, then you steep for 15 minutes. And then after that, then you remove the tea bag. You can squeeze it or strain it if you need to, whatever you need to do. And then you drink it. And you either drink it plain or you can drink honey. You can put a little honey in there. I would suggest raw honey. And if you're going to use raw honey, you want to wait till the tea cools down a little bit because the hot water will destroy all the nutrients in the tea if it's over 105 degrees. So you want to cool down the tea a little bit. Okay. So a couple of recipes that I have for you besides this one. Now, this one is called Sleepy Time. Okay. And again, this is a 1 part each rose petals. Now, make sure all your herbs are organic. All right. Don't just go buy herbs, in the store or, don't go buying herbs in the store unless they're organic because you don't want to be putting pesticides or anything like that. That just defeats the purpose of having a fresh herbal tea. So again, 1 part rose petals, 1 part lavender buds, 1 part chamomile flowers, 1 part California poppy, and 1 part catnip. Excuse me. And then you just keep it mixed up. Now you want to keep this in a dark cupboard because light and heat will affect the herbs and they'll make them go stale quicker. So you want to keep these in a dark cabinet, or you can keep them in a jar that you can't see through. Okay, so a couple. Oh, I am so sorry. So a couple more recipes for you. Another one is called that I call Mood Lifter. This is really good for when you're having a really rough day, or you're feeling a little bummed out or depressed. This is really great and it relaxes you. So if you calm down, if you're having stress or if you're having a little anxiety, it's really good for that. So you want to use 2 parts of lemon balm and 1 part each of California poppy, catnip, St. John's wort flower, milky oat tops, oat straw, gotu kola, holy basil, ashwagandha root, and 1/2 part peppermint. So let me say that again. And once you mix this all up, I mean, you don't have to just use a tablespoon. Like I just put 2 tablespoons of each one in here, but you can make, if you drink it regularly, you can use quarter cups or anything as long as you're consistent. Okay, so that's really important. So again, 2 parts of lemon balm, 1 part each of California poppy, catnip, St. John's wort flower, milky oats, tops, oat straw, gotu kola, holy basil, ashwagandha, and then 1/2 part peppermint. It's really actually tastes really good, especially with the peppermint and the chamomile, excuse me, not chamomile, lemon balms. Oh, it's delicious made into tea. So that's a very relaxing tea. Another one that's really good is an uplifting tonic. All right. And this one gives you energy. So this one is 1 part each green tea, holy basil leaves, upper, the above ground parts, and peppermint. It's very refreshing. So it's 1 part each green tea, holy basil, and peppermint. And then I have one more for you. And this one is called Headache Ease Tea. So if you come home and you're having a stress headache and you're just your head's pounding, you've been sitting in front of the computer all day. So this is really great for that. And notice that a lot of these herbs do a lot of different things because a lot of them are adaptogens and they do different things in the body. So the Headache Ease Tea consists of 2 parts lemon balm, 2 parts chamomile flowers, 1 part peppermint, 1/2 part lavender buds, and then you add 2 tablespoons to 8 to 12 ounces of boiling water. And then you steep for 15 minutes. Now you want to cover the cup with a lid or something. Like I usually use those plastic lids that you get um, like uh like the containers that you get food in, and then you keep the containers. So I get the lids are about this big, and so it fits right over my mug, and then you keep all the volatile oils in the tea. So let me go over that again. It's 2 parts lemon balm, 2 parts chamomile flowers, 1 teaspoon peppermint, a 1/2 teaspoon of lavender, and a 1/2 teaspoon of lavender buds. Okay. All right. So that's Headache Ease Tea. Now, some of the other herbs, some of the other herbs that you can use for tea, in fact, you can really pretty much use all herbs for tea. But some of the other more pleasant ones, not all of them taste good. So some of the other pleasant ones, of course, is peppermint. Be careful though, it's very strong. Spearmint is another really delicious one. Lemon balm is amazing, especially if you grow lemon balm and you chop that up and you put that in fresh. Oh, that's so good. You can also use lemongrass, and you can also use raspberry leaf. Raspberry leaf's really good. It smells just like raspberries, and it has a little bit of flavor of the raspberries, but it's leafy, so it's a green, but it's really delicious. Okay. So that's a tea. They're very simple. You just mix them up and then take a scoop out and then pour your hot water over it. So that's tea. Okay. So another thing that I want to tell you how to make is a tincture. Now, most herbalists will use tinctures, and these are liquid extracts, excuse me, and these are made to take internally. Now, they're very easy to make, and they last a really long time if they're stored properly. And these tinctures can last 5, 10 years, depending on how you store them. So you could make a big batch and then just keep it in your cupboard and then take it out as you use it. Now, 1 second. Okay. So tinctures can be made with alcohol, which is the most common. The other ones you can use if you can't take alcohol or you don't want to drink alcohol for whatever reason, you can make them out of vegetable glycerin, and you can also make them out of apple cider vinegar. Excuse me, apple cider vinegar. Both are really good at preserving the tinctures, so you don't necessarily have to make alcohol, but alcohol actually removes more constituents than any of the other two. So it does make a more powerful tincture. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the alcohol, but you can substitute vegetable glycerin or apple cider vinegar. If you use vegetable glycerin, it's called the glycerite. And the apple cider vinegar is just, I don't, oxymel, I think it's called. But they do have specific names, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes right now. So the best uh, alcohol to use is 100 proof vodka. Now you can use rum, you can use gin, you can use brandy, but make sure it's at least 80 proof or 40% alcohol. 50% is better, and some needs higher dosages of alcohol, up to 75% or 95%. It just depends on the herb, but mostly most of the tinctures you can use will take 40 to 50% alcohol. Now, the 75% alcohol is, or 95, it's called Everclear, and a lot of people can get it. Not everybody can, but I use 100 proof vodka, and I buy by the big bottle because you're going to use more than just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to use this. So to make a tincture, you need a few supplies. Okay, you're going to need your chosen herb, and today I'm going to use catnip. Okay, I got this at Star West Botanicals. I buy a lot of my herbs from there because mostly all their herbs are either wildcrafted or they're organic. Now there's other places you can buy them, Mountain Rose Herbs and a bunch of other places. So you can buy them wherever you feel comfortable. But I like Star West, and they're pretty good fast shippers too. Okay, and the prices are really great. I have a wholesale account. But if you don't have a tax ID number or something from your state saying that you have a business, well, you can you can just order from them. Not really a big deal. Okay, so you're going to need your chosen herb. We're going to use catnip today. You're going to need pint or quart mason jars. Okay, so these are pint, which is 2 cups or 16 ounces. It's also, I believe it is 350 mils. 350 mils. Okay. When you work with herbs, you really need to learn the metric system because it's a lot more accurate than doing ounces and pounds and teaspoons and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you can get away with it. Like I'm going to talk about the folk method, but I'm also going to talk about a way that you can make your herbs tinctures so that they come out consistent every time. And that means you need to measure everything. Okay. But if you're just making it for yourself or for your family, you don't have to be precise. You can actually just measure out teaspoons or tablespoons or quarter cups. That's fine. Okay, you're also going to need cheesecloth, all right, because after you steep your herbs, you have to strain them. So cheesecloth is the best thing to use. Okay, and then let's see, you need labels, and you need labels. Now labels are really important because once you put the medicine or the tincture in the bottle, You're not going to know what it is because you know what? These all look the same. All right. And even if you open them up and you smell them, all you're going to smell is alcohol. So you want to label them. And I suggest that you get the Avery labels. All right. Avery labels. They're the best. They stick. Um, they print. They print well. And so what you want to do is because otherwise the generic labels they jam in the computer. That's my experience. So I have the 2x4s for big bottles or for my tincture label. Okay, for making the herbal tinctures, and then I have smaller ones. These are 1 by 2 and 5/8 inches. Okay, and these are really good for now. These are 1 ounce bottles, and they you can buy them with the droppers, which is really important because you have to dose them when you use them. You want to use dropperfuls. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But this bottle has a dropper and it screws right in. Now, when you buy bottles, just keep in mind that not all bottles are created equal. See, these two bottles look very similar, but they have different neck sizes, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay. See, what the problem is that this bottle here is made for essential oils because it has a smaller neck and it has, you can put the essential oil dropper in here. Okay. This one is made to screw on droppers. Okay, so make sure when you buy these that you're not getting the ones for essential oils. You want to buy the ones that come with come with these glass droppers. Okay. All right. So, okay, now tinctures take about 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So you can't make them at the drop of a hat. If you want to if you want to use your herbs right away, what you have to do is either you make capsules or you make tea. If you want to use tincture, it takes 4 to 6 weeks. So, but once it's made, it lasts for a long time. So a jar like this could probably make about, I don't know, anywhere from 6 to 8 of these. All right. And then you can leave it in here or you can decant them and put them in these bottles and then you can give them to your family or you can keep them in your medicine cabinet or whatever it is, but make sure you label them. Okay. So but they take 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So it's worth taking the time to make them because they last a really long time. Now, if you decide to use vinegar, or vinegar lasts about a year or longer if you store it in the refrigerator. And then glycerin-based tinctures last about 2 to 3 years, and they don't need refrigeration. Okay. Now, what I want to say about glycerin is that you really have to make sure that you're getting the one that's edible. It has to be organic and it also has to be USP certified because if it's not, then you don't want to eat it. All right. You definitely don't want to eat it. You want to make sure that it's available for human consumption because not all glycerin is created equal. So you really got to make sure you're getting the right stuff. Okay. Now, there are 2 ways to make a tincture. One is the folk method, where we really don't need to measure anything. And the other is using an herb to alcohol ratio. It keeps your tinctures consistent. Now, what I mean by a folk method is you take your jar. Okay, come on. Thank you. And you put, I don't know, maybe about halfway, fill the jar halfway with herbs, and then you fill the rest of the jar with alcohol. Now, you want to make sure that the herbs are covered. So when you put the alcohol in, you may want to start with like 1/3 of a jar because dry herbs, now with fresh herbs, it's a little different, but most people use dried herbs. So if you use dried herbs, you have to make sure that the alcohol is covering the herbs. Otherwise, you're going to get mold. So what you do is you put the alcohol into the herb and then you let it sit for a few hours. You shake it up, make sure that everything gets wet. And then if you need to add more alcohol, you can do that. Now that's the folk method. Now you chop up your herb. Now if you're using fresh herbs, make sure that you chop up your fresh herbs pretty well. You know, just use a knife and a cutting board, and then put them all in there. And then you can actually fill up the jar with the fresh herb. Okay, if it's dried herb, I would go like 1/3 to start, because you really don't want to put too much herb in there, especially with the dried herb, because they suck up the water in the alcohol really fast. So you definitely want to uh, make sure that your herbs are covered. Okay, so so with the folk method, you make sure that there's at least 1 inch of liquid over the herb. Make sure you chop them all up, or if they're dried herb, make sure they're not lumpy or whole. You might want to use an herb grinder, a coffee grinder, or if you have a mortar and pestle, that works too. That's perfect. Okay, and then grind them up and then put them in the jar. And then make sure that you label. Okay, use a Sharpie pen, all right, because Sharpie pens, at least they're permanent, and if you get them a little wet, they won't run. So use a Sharpie pen on your label. You want to make sure what herb you used, what kind of alcohol, like if it's 40% or it's 50%, or you could write proof, 80 proof, 100 proof, 75%, which is 150 proof. Okay, you can use that, but you have to make sure you write it down, because you want to know what's in the jar. Okay, and then make sure you date it, the date that you close the lid. Okay, that's minimum that you want to put on the label. Now you can add more stuff to it. You can list all the herbs, or you can just say, um, um, cold remedy, and then you can write the herbs on the bottom. So you can do that too. Okay, so once you have your herbs in here and you close the lid and you shook them up and everything's fine, you have plenty of liquid, you want to put it in a cool, dry place away from heat and light. Now, about once every other day or so, you want to go in there and shake them up a little bit. You can and can't you can say prayers over them. You can put intentions. You can, if this is for a specific person, you may want to say a few words to the herbs. They'll all that stuff gets put into the medicine, especially if you infuse it with love. You always want to make your herbal tinctures and all that stuff with love. So make sure before you do all this stuff that you're grounded and you're in a good place. Because if you're not, especially like even with cooking, you don't want anybody that's angry to cook your dinner. You definitely don't want it. Definitely tastes different. So make sure that you that you're in a good place. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make um, I'm just going to show you how to make an herbal tincture that has a that you've made into a um, that you've made into into alcohol with a ratio. Now, the books that I have here all recommend ratios for the different types of herbs. Now, Rico Check's book is really, really good for that, because what he does is if you look up catnip, which is right here, okay, it tells you how much of the fresh herb to use and how much alcohol you need. It also tells you if you use dried herbs, your proportions 1 to 5, and it's 50% alcohol, 50% water. So that Smirnoff 100 proof is perfect. So you don't have to measure anything out. You can just pour it right into the bottle. And then if you want to use water extract, basically making a tincture, a tea, you're going to basic tea the way I told you how to make it earlier. And then also, these books tell you how, like, about the herbs. So we're going to be using catnip today. And catnip is very gentle for relieving indigestion and gas. It's also a specific remedy for infant colic. Now you got to be really careful when you use it for babies. You want to use a really, really low dose. And I would recommend that you use glycerin or apple cider vinegar, more glycerin because it's sweet. Glycerin's very sweet. And so it's more palatable for babies. Now, the tea is often effective in bringing on a delayed menstrual period. So if you're having issues that way, it will help. It's also used as a sedative for treating sleeplessness, excuse me, sleeplessness, for dispelling headaches and sweating out a fever. And of course, it's a favorite for cats. So you also have to be careful around your cat, because this bag right here, this is only 4 ounces. But I'll tell you what, if I don't have cats, but I had a cat, it'd probably rip the bag open and just lay in the middle. So make sure that you keep your catnip away from your cats, unless you just put a little bit in a little sack, and then you can treat them. Okay, so once you decide on the herb, you're going to do, especially now, this is dry, this is for dry herbs, all right? For if you have fresh catnip and you grow it in your garden, which is absolutely wonderful, you can you can use the fresh herb 1 to 2, but we're going to use dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out the herb. Now, also you need a kitchen scale. Now, I got this one at Walmart. Okay, a Wally World, excuse me. And it measures in grams and it measures in ounces, but you really want to use grams, okay, for this, because it works out a lot better. So I'm going to put the bowl on top of the scale, and I'm going to make sure that I'm doing grams, okay? And I am going to measure out, it's the proportion is 1 to 5. So I'm going to use 1 part catnip to 5 parts of alcohol. Now this holds up to 300 mils. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 50 grams of catnip, and that's a lot. I might just use 25 just to get it in there. 25, and then 5 times, and then 250 mils. So 25 grams. And as you can see, this is a lot. This is because it's very light. So that's 25 grams. So what I do then is I measure out 250 mils. And they have the milliliters right on the side of the bottle of the jar. All right. So I'm going to take my alcohol, and I'm going to measure. I'm going to put 250 mils of alcohol in here. Okay, that's about right. And then I'm going to take my herbs. I'm going to take my script. My script. All right. And then I'm going to pour the herbs into the jar. It's going to be a little tricky. Okay. Now, a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of herb and not as much alcohol. So that's what happened here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a spoon, and I'm just going to push this down to make sure that all the herb gets soaked with the alcohol. Okay. And if it's not enough, you can top it off a little bit. That's okay. It's, that's really not a bad thing. All right. So I'm going to top it off just a little with about another 50 mils. Not going to make too big of a difference. But I want to make sure that all the herbs get soaked with the alcohol. Okay, so here's the tincture. I've made sure. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to cap it. Okay, I'm going to cap it. I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake just to make sure everything is all in there. And that's pretty much all you got to do. I mean, it's really simple to make a tincture. I got catnip everywhere. Okay, so that's it. And then you want to make sure that you get your label. Okay, and then you want to write catnip tincture 1 to 5, which is the ratio, 50 water, 50 alcohol, and then you want to write the date. So today is the 2nd of December. Can't believe it's December already. My goodness. Okay, so this is the minimum that you want to put on your tincture label. Now you can put more stuff, but you definitely want to put that on there and do it as soon as you're finished, because you may not remember what herb you put in here. But that's all you have to do. Okay, that's all you got to do. And then you want to leave this sit for 4 to 6 weeks. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pull the label up high enough, but here, this would probably help. There, this probably help. Okay, yeah, see, catnip tincture, 1 to 5 ratio, 50 water, 50 alcohol, and the date. Okay. All right, that's that's all you have to do. And then you set it in a cupboard, and then every day or so, well, first of all, you want to make sure that there's enough alcohol here to cover all of the herb. Now, I noticed that it's really close to the top, so you may have to add a little more alcohol, okay? And that's okay. It's not going to screw it up too much, but you definitely don't want mold in your, you definitely don't want mold. So it's better to put a little more alcohol than not enough alcohol, all right? And that's all you do. Okay, so you just let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks. And then what you do, of course, is you decant it. So there's several ways to do it. I have an herbal press, but if you guys aren't, if you're not making medicine, if you're not making herbal concoctions for a business, then you just want to use some cheesecloth, and then you put about 2 layers of cheesecloth over a big bowl. Pour your tincture in, and then take your cheesecloth and squeeze really, really, really hard. And then this way, you have your tincture, and then you bottle it, and you want to make sure that you label these also. Okay, so you would say catnip tincture 1 to 5, alcohol 50, watered alcohol 50-50, and then the date that you decanted it. All right, not the date that you made it. All right, because that's different. You want to make sure that that you're keeping these fresh. So you want to go. There's an old restaurant trick called FIFO, first in, first out. So you want to make sure that the date is on there so that you don't use up your new stuff before you use up the stuff that's been there. But just remember that tinctures last like 5 to 10 years. So I guess it's a moot point, but you really don't, you really want to use this stuff, the stuff you made earlier. Okay. All right. So that's a tincture. Now, recipes are usually not created for tinctures. All right. The reason why is because most herbalists make what they call simples, which means that you're only using one herb per tincture, and then you can mix them up as you need them. Let's say, for instance, somebody needs uh, something relaxing, so you would use some of the herbs that I mentioned earlier, um, like California poppy. You could take some California poppy tincture, use catnip, um, and then a few other herbs like lavender buds, chamomile flowers. You can make tinctures of each herb separately. You can also make mixtures if you know that you're going to use, like, for instance, like winter remedies, for cold and flu and that kind of stuff. You might want to just make a mixture up of some of those things. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes how to make an herbal pill. And these pills are particularly good for dry cough. So I just wanted to let you know that you can use this recipe for dry cough. All right. Okay. Let me see. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say about that. Okay. I'm getting the sun in my eyes, so please forgive me. Okay, so herbal pills, these are fun projects, especially when you make them with kids. So it helps the medicine go down for those who don't like tinctures or teas. So you're going to need powdered herbs. Now you don't want to use leaf. See, there's a difference between the leaf, which is I have catnip, and powdered herbs. Okay, these are powdered, but if you don't want to buy powder, you can powder them yourself. You just have to use either a mortar and pestle or an herb grinder or something like that. You don't want to use your food processor. Um, it doesn't ever get it powdery enough. So you want something powdery. Okay. So you're going to need powdered herbs. Okay. You're also going to need raw honey. This is the one I use. I love this stuff. I get it at the health food store. It's local, Florida honey. That's where we are. Uh, by the way, we are having a cold snap. And I know a lot of you guys up north are getting snow, but down here it was 37 degrees last night. That's freaking freezing. Okay, so just to let you know, and then tonight's supposed to be 41 and then like 60 tomorrow. So anyway, so this you use raw honey, okay? Um, you're gonna need unsweetened cocoa powder. Okay, I have a Hershey cocoa or licorice root powder. These are both sweet flavored, and then an oven or a dehydrator. Okay, because you're going to want to dry them because they're sticky. They're made with honey. So the first thing you want to do is you want to measure out probably a. Now that's the thing. If you know the herbal dose, like for instance, let's say you read in a book somewhere that you're making, let's say, capsules, and each capsule holds, let's see, 250 milligrams, I think, of herb. So you want to measure out. Let's say you want to make 30 pills, so you've got to measure out however many grams of herbs times 30 to make 30 pills. The other way that you can do it is you can just measure by the tablespoon and then divide it by 30, and then you just have to hope that that's enough. So what I'm going to use here is Echinacea angustifolia, its root. This is a organic powder. Okay. Now there's another echinacea. It's called purpurea, but that's not the same thing. So you want to definitely use Echinacea angustifolia. Okay, that's this one. And then the next one I'm going to use is marshmallow root powder. Okay, marshmallow root powder is. I'm sorry, that sun is just awful. I'm going to have to next week I'm going to have to close that. I really apologize for that. but you are going to use the marshmallow root powder. Now, marshmallow root is really like it's sticky. It's like gummy sticky, so it's really good for developing moisture. So that's why it's real. This formula is really good for dry cough. And then, or if you have like a flu or a cold with a dry cough. And then this one is nettle leaf powder. Nettle leaf is an adaptogen. It will work with just about anything, and nettle leaf's really good. Okay, so I am going to use 1 teaspoon each of these powders. Okay, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit of honey, and then we're going to roll them up into little balls, and then roll them in cocoa. And I didn't bring anything to cover my table with, so oh well, that's the way it goes. Okay, so we have 1 teaspoon of nettle goes in the bowl. All right. 1 teaspoon of echinacea angustifolia root. Make sure you use the root. The root is a lot more effective than the flower or the tops. Okay, it has a lot more oomph or medicinal stuff in it than the flowers. Okay, and then I'm going to also put in 1 teaspoon of marshmallow root, and then also marshmallow root's sweet too. So marshmallow roots. Okay. All right. So I'm using. I guess my green screen disappeared because of the sun. Oh well. Oh well. Okay. So in this bowl, I have all 3 herbs. Okay. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. And then I'm going to mix them up really well. Okay. They're all herby. And I'm going to put a little bit of honey. Now you want to start small because put too much honey, then you're going to have to wind up putting more herbs and then more honey and then more herbs. So, you know, it's like, so I'm going to start off with 1 teaspoon of honey and see how that goes. Okay. So 1 teaspoon of honey, and just mix that up. And I'm definitely going to need more than 1 teaspoon. Probably a tablespoon to start. Okay, so I have them in the bowl, and I'm just mixing them up. Okay. No, I shouldn't usually lick my fingers, but that tastes really good. Okay, now I'm going to put gloves on because what you need to do after you mix this dough up, it actually becomes dough, is you want to roll them into little pills, and I don't want to get my hands all sticky. So I'm probably going to need 2 tablespoons of honey. Okay. All right. That's a little better. All right. So this becomes like a soft dough. And then what you want to do is, whoops, I think I put a little too much honey. Yeah, that's what happens when you put a little too much honey. Oh, well, let's see. Echinacea, nettle leaf. I'll put a little more nettle leaf in there. So this is what happens when you put too much. Okay, it gets gooey and runny. So you just kind of have to play around with it a little bit because it's like, you know, one of those, it's like, it's like an experiment. Okay. All right. Okay. Now This is green because of the nettles. All right. And everybody's got, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Ugh. I'm sure you all have nettles growing in your backyard. Don't pull them up. Okay. Don't pull the nettles up. Make sure that you keep nettle. Nettle is amazing. It's an amazing herb. It's really good for you. Um, okay. So what you want to do, I'm really sorry. I really apologize for this class not coming out. But basically, see, it looks like a dough now. All right, let's see. Okay, so what you do is you knead that a few times. Okay, make sure that it's all mixed up. And then what you want to do is you want to take, oh my gosh, you want to take a quarter teaspoon. All right, and you want to roll that into a little ball. All right, just like that. There. And then what you do is you can roll these in cocoa, or you can roll them in licorice root, okay, to make them sweet. And then what you want to do is you have to dry these, all right, because they're just going to be gooey, which is pretty much, maybe I'll sit over on this side. Okay. They're really gooey, so you definitely want to either put them in the oven. You can put them in the oven on a cookie sheet, on a parchment paper. Make sure you use parchment paper. Don't use aluminum foil, they'll stick. Okay, so you want to use parchment paper, and then you bake them at about at 150 degrees. Okay, or in your dehydrator for a few hours until they're dry to the touch. And then you just store them in a bag. Um, they will keep indefinitely once they're dry, and you can store them in glass jars in a cool, dark location. These make really great. These are really great for cold and flu season, and these are really good for upper respiratory issues. All right, so typical dosage is 1 to 2 pills every 2 hours, up to 8 per day for acute issues. So if you know how many doses your herbs will make, you can always divide the number of doses you need by the quantity of pills. And these directions were taken directly from Medicinal Herbs: A Beginner's Guide by Rosemary Gladstar. Okay, I really apologize for all of the snafus. I apologize for the, well, my green screen's gone. Oh, well. But I do apologize for all the hiccups. But I hope that you got something out of it. And if you want, please post comments or questions, and I'll be glad to answer them. So again, now next week, I have 3 more classes coming up. The next week is going to be how do crystals help us heal? And I'm going to give you some science. It's not just all woo-woo stuff. You'll learn how and why they affect us. Oh, look, our green screen came back. Yay. Okay. And then the 6th class is going to be all about gem waters. So you can't just plop a handful of crystals into water. You have to be really careful because most crystals are toxic. So you definitely want to make sure that you're using crystals. Now, I will show you a way that you can use any crystal, toxic or not. Okay, but if you're going to plunk them in your water, you better make sure that those are non-toxic. Otherwise, use the method I'm going to show you next week, okay, which is called the indirect method. It makes sense, okay? And I'm going to give you a bunch of recipes with it. And then the last class is how to choose your crystals and developing your intuition with them. Now, crystals communicate with us on many levels, and it's important to trust that the messages you're getting are the right ones. So you want to learn how to trust your intuition with this. Okay, so that's the class for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is Karen Squillante with Nature's Alchemy, and I invite you to come in where we explore natural healing with crystals, plants and herbalism, essential oils, and the many ways that Mother Earth provides for our healing and well-being. And again, I thank you for coming, and I will see you all next week.